Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope we're doing well, and today we'll be looking ahead to the box office for this weekend and what the early projections are saying about what the films coming out this weekend are likely to make, and also how films like Joker and Dark Fate are set to handle this upcoming weekend, where several films will be getting a wide release and more movie competition will indeed coming to the forefront. So the first, of course, is Dr. Sleep, a new film from Warner Brothers that will be coming in at apparently number one, with $25 million being the 3-day projection in the domestic US and Canada area. Last Christmas was by Universal with $16.5 million, which, to be honest, I think is a little bit high. And obviously these are all averages. These are all ranges of what the film is expected to make. But Last Christmas, to me, the new film with Emilia Clarke, yeah, it's got Christmas in the title, and that tends to drive more people to the theater. Something tells me, though, that audiences are going to be more interested in films like Dr. Sleep or Joker, or even other films like, I would even say, Playing with Fire or Midway, than with Last Christmas. I just feel like, to me, ever since I've seen the trailer for it, I've thought this is a Hallmark movie that would probably do well in the Hallmark sector, but I don't really think people would actually go out of their house to pay for it individually as a film. I think the mindset is, well, these films tend to do very well on television, and so why wouldn't they do well here first? And I think that I really honestly believe that they're going to see that the bet or the wager that they're making probably won't play out the way that they think. That's just my own speculation, just because I think the trailer doesn't look that great. But hey, stranger things have happened. Sometimes films like that are able to draw in that older audience, which could definitely happen, which could make it at that 16.5 or even higher number. Dr. Sleep, though, I definitely think will be coming in at number one this weekend because the marketing for it has been fantastic. It's a film I never knew I wanted to see until I saw the first trailer for it. I've been avoiding everything else like the plague ever since because I just don't want to know more about it. I want to be able to experience it as purely as I possibly can. But that, of course, we'll be finding out this weekend. Hopefully, I'll be able to see it this weekend. It's on my list of films that I really want to see. Dark Fate is set to come in at number 3 at $13 million, which would be a 55% drop-off. So that's assuming it gets a 55% drop-off. And so keep in mind that just goes to tell you just how little this movie made in its opening weekend. If this is its second weekend and $13 million is a 55% drop, that's pretty low. Keep in mind that last weekend, in its 30th day out in theaters, Joker made over $10 million. So that should give you a good indication as to how little this film really is selling in the domestic markets. It could even be a bigger drop than that, though. 55% is indeed the average. It could be more. It could be less. I would not be surprised, based off of what we've been hearing about audience reactions and especially when it comes to hardcore fans' reactions to this film, that it would even come lower than that, because I think there is a world where Joker could potentially even outpace that this weekend, especially since you have a lot of films coming out that other people might say, yeah, you know what, none of this sounds good. Why don't I go see Joker again? And could go see that Warner Brothers film instead, which is set to come out here 5th, behind Midway at $8.3 million. Playing with Fire is brand new, coming with $8 million. And then you have the rest of the films listed there. So Joker, it seems, will be knocked out of the top 3 films, which is definitely not what I expected the projections to be. However, is it possible? Sure. It's a movie that's been out for over a month. It's going to be, and here's the big thing, it's going to be leaving several theaters. So it doesn't matter how well it's doing at the theaters that it's at. The fact is that if you lose a lot of theaters, it means, think about it as service area, right? If you have more of a spread at it, if you have more of an area that's spread out, you're able to touch more people. You're able to reach out to more people, just like with Blu-rays at a store, right? At Best Buy. If you have a million copies of Captain Marvel, you're more likely going to sell copies of that because it's easily accessible, it's easy to see. More people are likely to say, oh, there's a lot of copies, I'm just going to grab one. Versus a film like Alita Battle Angel, which I'm sure some people out there are still loving the fact that I'm putting a comparison between the two, because one's a crap movie like Captain Marvel, and one's a great film like Alita Battle Angel. I don't care what you have to say, hashtag Alita Army. But regardless of that, that film had a lot less copies available, though, so it's harder to find. And yeah, you might have more passionate people trying to find it, but there's no denying that you're going to sell more copies with a movie that has more copies available. Again, it just seems to me like it makes a lot of sense from a logical standpoint. And so with Joker likely leaving a lot of screens, being accessible to less people overall with less showtimes, especially less important showtimes or less easy showtimes to get to. It's not going to get the primetime showings that it was getting for a long time, or at least not nearly as many showtimes as it was getting in some markets and some areas, and that's going to automatically impact the box office numbers. And so I could believe it would drop out of the top 3. However, something tells me that I think a lot more people are going to go see it this weekend, because we've been hearing the news that it could potentially reach $1 billion as early as this weekend. And I don't know about you, but I kind of want to be a part of that. I kind of want to be one of the persons that helps the film go over the edge, especially in the domestic market, being the place that pushes it over that edge, because it's only about $70 million or so away from reaching that point. So let's just go ahead and break down these two films. So as I said, Joker is at $937 million. It is still making about $1 million a day here in the U.S. So let's assume it makes another $1 million today. On Thursday, it makes another $1 million, or either it'll probably make more than $1 million tomorrow, but let's assume it's another $1 million. That put it at 938 or around $939 million. And this is all without any new updates from the foreign market either. So let's assume that we get at least close to the $950 million mark before Friday hits. I think that's plausible. I think that's possible. Means it only needs to make $50 million. Right now, at the projection of it making only around $8 million this weekend, could potentially get up to close to $10 million. I think that's definitely possible for the film to make that much. But as I said, if it doesn't, that would not surprise me, because it's not going to be in as nearly as many theaters as it had been previously. But let's assume that it does get that $8 million. Let's go on the low end there. Okay, so you're looking at least $958 million, which means it just needs to make $42 million in the foreign market. Now, it could make it this weekend. However, it might take 2 weekends. So basically, if the movie outperforms domestically and gets closer to the $10 million range, I think that if it's overperforming here, it likely will continue to overperform in other areas, and you could potentially get that point, because this is available in a lot of international markets. So getting $8 million here, what if it could get another $8 million in the United Kingdom, or another $8 million in Mexico? You see these giant territories that are also putting in a lot of money to it, could potentially have high numbers. Now, 8 million there at this point in time after being out for 30 days is not nearly as likely, keeping in mind that you have right now a total of $64 million in the UK versus the $303 million for the US and Canada. You obviously can see that the US market is going to, cause a lot more of the overall profits of the film. But that is not to say that it can't perform well in these other countries, especially with the drive going out there. Again, when you look at these numbers, Brazil, 33 million, France, 36 million, Germany, 32 million. Interestingly enough, Hong Kong got a release of the film with 6.8 million. Now, that is surprisingly low. With everything going on in Hong Kong right now, that is surprising that the film is not doing nearly as well as I suspected it would, because of the subject matter of the film itself. But keep in mind that all of this is still without an official China release, which is a gigantic market, is a gigantic source of income, and would definitely have had this film well over the $1 billion mark at this point, and probably would be putting it in the top 5 for highest grossing films of the year. I don't know if it's going to reach that point. I'm very confident it's going to reach the $1 billion mark either this or next weekend, but anything more than that is still kind of up in the air. While Terminator Dark Fate is continuing to just not make any money. Again, $36 million domestically so far, $94.6 million in the foreign market. These totals have not been, rather the international market, just like with Joker, has not been updated up to this point, including the weekly grosses. But things really aren't looking all that great for it. As we mentioned last time we talked about it, China, which is supposed to be much bigger than what it was, has only brought in about $34.6 million. That's well below the expectations of what they were trying to do. So this apparently is as of yesterday, the 6th. So this has had a more recent box office update. Remember, it only got around $20 million for its opening week. It got $26.8 million in its opening weekend, which was below the 45 that they had originally thought. Keep in mind also that Genesis, the previous Terminator film, tapped out around $104 million. Very unlikely that this film is going to reach that point. I would say it looks more likely that the film will get closer to the $50 million mark as being closer to its max than anything else. So you're looking at a film right now that has no markets in which it's making a whole lot of money. Again, China being the largest, but look how much smaller it is in these other countries. Again, 9.8 in South Korea, 6.9 in the UK. These are countries that are just not showing up for it, and probably won't show up for it this weekend, especially with other films coming out and with people continuing to see films like Joker multiple times over. I mean, you don't usually see this type of distinction, right? You see, oh my goodness, this is a gigantic number in comparison, where the Joker, everything is a lot more spread out. And if you had a China release, you probably would see it also be a lot closer and a lot more filled out in this way, similar to it, even if it was a higher number, around $150 million, which likely could be the case if it ever actually got a China release. But it won't, because luckily the studio is not playing ball with the Chinese government and shouldn't, because they're a bunch of commies. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Do you think that Joker is going to make more than the $8.3 million that is projected? Keep in mind that that is indeed going to be the average of what it could make, meaning it could make less than 8.8 or 8.3. It could make more than 8.3. This is all from Box Office Pro, which for the most part is a pretty good website. One place that I like to go to every now and then is Box Office Report, because they only ever really put the average numbers for it. So as you can see here on this, let me see, I have a older, there we go, because I had an older number up there. So Doctor Sleep, $22.5 million, 13.2 for Midway, Last Christmas at 13, Dark Fate at 12.8, and this one has it at $9 million. And so this one has slightly different numbers based more so on the averages, and I think does a good job at really putting this out there. But Joker, again, has been out for 6 weeks, or it's going into its 6th week, where films like Dark Fate is in its 2nd weekend and is only just barely making more than it. This film has nothing left to make. Joker, on the other hand, has one last milestone to cross before it can finally go off and eventually have a fantastic run on home video, which if you have not already pre-ordered your copy, I recommend. The steelbook for it looks phenomenal. I've already got that. Can't wait for those special features, but go ahead and check it out for yourself. And let me know, do you think that Dark Fate could potentially get beat by Joker? There is a world. Again, $3 million, $4 million is not a whole lot. There is a lot of wiggle room there. You could see a film like Joker in its 6th week beat a film like Terminator 2 in its 2nd week. And we already saw it do that with Maleficent. Maleficent's been out for 2 less weeks, and it's already making less than Joker. And that has the giant Disney machine behind it. So let me know your thoughts about that, what you think the numbers are going to look like this weekend, and talk about anything we talked about in the comment section below. Like this video, smash that like button, give me a subscribe. It helps me out a lot. You are all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.